Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Miriam Lazarte. I'm representing here LATAM Startups, and today we have another webinar about Colombia. This is the month of Colombia, and we are putting Colombia in the spotlight this month. And now we have a webinar about investors and connectors. We are going to talk about the what are your opportunities right now to connect with the startup ecosystem in Colombia, and how these connectors can provide you some support locally. So just before we start, please, if you have any questions, just wait until we finish the webinar, and then you can contact us to contact@latamstartups.biz or through the hashtag LatamStartups. Thanks again for attending the webinar, and we are going to start with the questions. Now, our first question is, how do you describe the startup ecosystem? Yes, could you please start with that question? How did you say, what is the main feature of the Colombia startup ecosystem? Andres, do you hear me?
Yeah, okay. Hear me? Excellent. So the most important thing that the Colombian ecosystem has today, more than its market, it's talents. And when you build technology companies, which is what we focus on, the most important resource that you need is engineering talent. So Colombia has that. There's a lot of talk that Colombia is missing venture capital, that Colombia is missing an ecosystem. I don't think that's true at all. It is not missing venture capital, because if you have a product that uses Colombian talent, but that it's sold in the North American market, then there is plenty of venture capital. The issue is trying to build software products for the Colombian market exclusively. Now, the Colombian market is interesting once you've already grown to be #1 in the US, in Europe, in Asia, in Mexico. Then you're entering Colombia. That makes sense. But it is not the best market to start out with as your first market, especially if you don't have a lot of time or money. So I think the best feature we have is in the engineering talent.
Good, thank you so much. Jessica, would you like to add something to what Andres just said?
Yes, of course. I'm actually I'm helping startups do recruitment here in Colombia, and I have to agree with Andres in that side. Colombia has a really big pool full of talent, full of people that are willing to do stuff. What I think they need is the right direction in terms of what to do and how to do it. But for example, here to get a really good engineering team in Colombia, it's something that you can easily do. Even easier than in the US market or in other countries in Latin America. Colombia has that power. So yeah, I will have to agree, it is the talent, and also people just willing to build startups. Like here, everyone is, they just want to do things, they just want to create things. So I think that's also a good thing that the Colombian market has.
Great, thank you so much. Now, Carlos, could you please let us know, your point of view about the ecosystem?
Okay, I think that Colombia's ecosystem obviously is emerging, but in terms of talent, as Andres and Jessica were saying, I think that the biggest advantage of Colombia is the way you can scale up an operation in terms of talent. That's a really important thing to say, because when you take into account other countries, like the obvious answer to Americans is like Costa Rica or San Jose or Montevideo. Well, the feeling we have here in our soft landing program and in our community is that there's a lot of startups coming to Colombia because the talent is getting expensive in those two great Latin American countries. So, other thing about Colombia's ecosystem is that they have entities and institutions that are, that care about the growth of the startups. And in terms of talent, as a matter of fact, we are created a new proposal to startups is that we help you attract, recruit, and select the talent at no charge. And that talent can come from Costa Rica, Ecuador, Venezuela, or other cities of Colombia.
Thank you, Carlos. So for the next question, we know that in general, Colombia has like a main city, and then we have medium-sized cities that are big enough in compare, with other countries. We have like a big cities, second and third big cities. Now, for the tech sector, it seems like Bogota and Medellin are leading the ecosystem. Now, for the next question is, what are the main difference between the ecosystems in Bogota and Medellin? And I think we are going to start with Jessica.
Yeah, I was hoping you start with me. So I have an insight in that side of like in that question because I lived a time in Bogota and now I am living in Medellin. So my maybe my point of view is too personal, but I want to share it with you guys. For me, the ecosystem in Medellin is like closer and they share more. In Bogota, is like yeah, you meet people at meetups or at events and that you get to talk to people, but it's not like daily. Like here, I feel like it's more warm, not only for the weather, but also like people are more warm and they just want to help you and they just want to know how you're doing and what's your startup like, what's up with your startup. They just want to know that, so they can help. In Bogota, I think that it's a little bit, like more divided. I don't know if that's the word, but I think it's a little bit more divided. Like everyone is on their side, and they're not as close as you are in Medellin.
Okay, sounds good. Andres, do you have any addition to what Jessica just said about that?
Yes. So kind of to give you a perspective of Bogota and Medellin, Bogota has the benefit of having the most successful technology companies to date have been in Bogota, have operated in Bogota. Just a few examples. Authy, that got acquired by Twilio, is in Bogota. Their team is growing very large. They're going to be in the hundreds of engineers soon. Then you have Bunny Inc., that is also based in Bogota. You have VOIQ, which is another, both Authy and VOIQ are Y Combinator companies. And that one is also based out of Bogota. And so that's the thing that it has going for it. To what Jessica mentioned, the fact that it's very separated, not as united, I think that has to do with the urban planning. Medellin has done a fantastic job at urban planning, and it's just easier to participate in events to go from one place of the city to the other place of the city. In Bogota, it's not that easy. Just 30 blocks difference can be 2 hours inside a car to get there. So I think that is the biggest challenge. The benefit that Medellin has, aside from urban planning, is that a lot of the work was done before startups became a thing. In Medellin, Bogota, when Bogota was more advertising companies and microsites. So I feel like there's a bigger engineering community that has done engineering in Medellin, solving technically difficult problems, as opposed to Bogota, which was an industry created around advertising agencies.
Sounds good. And Carlos, I know you're located in Medellin, and of course you are there to defend Medellin. Like you are the ruta in Medellin. So, what do you think is the strongest part of the ecosystem in Medellin?
So I think that Jessica and Andres covered a lot of the difference between those cities. The the and I think it's a tricky question, and Miriam is kind of mean for asking these kind of things. But basically, our job, our value proposal here in Medellin, something that you will find that is very unique is proximity. I mean, everything is happening in one place. And since you're creating a new technology, since we are creating the talent pool that's going to be available in 10 years for the hard skills that we need, STEM programs. Also, you have a offer here to help the companies grow from the talent perspective. And everything is going on in the district, in our technology district. So there's a startup community here. around 115 companies, startups from 19 different countries, and they have created around 1,800 jobs already and growing. And everything happens in one place. I think that's really, really good to walk and to find your next customer, your next supplier, the research and development group that is going to solve your technology problem. And a lot of things are going on in one place and is around the time.
Thank you, Carlos. Now, the next question is very important for international startups since when they arrive to a new country, especially they don't know, who to connect from the startup ecosystem. Do you guys have any recommendations regarding connectors in Bogota, Medellin, or wherever they are going in Colombia that support the startups from international perspective? Andres, I'm going to start with you.
Sure thing. And not to toot my own horn, but we do have offices in Bogota and in Medellin that we help companies from abroad enter Colombia. So we have a public relations firm that if you're interested in the Colombian market, that PR firm has helped companies like Netflix, Airbnb, Evernote, and other companies enter the Latin American market. They're based out of Bogota. We have a co-working space both in Bogota and in Medellin. And then whenever companies work with our investment arm, when we invest capital, then they get access to, in the case in Medellin, they get access to a grant provided by the city so that they can pay for the first couple of months of engineering. And also, we put them in touch with law firms and accounting firms that we have vetted and we have trained in order to do the translation between doing business in North America versus doing business in Colombia, which a lot of things can be lost in translation and just bureaucracy. We make that happen in a way that is seamless. We're like an API for bureaucracy so that entrepreneurs and investors don't have to deal with it. But aside from that, I think the benefit of the Colombian ecosystem is that you can probably meet everybody within a week in each city, and everybody's willing to help and to connect you to the next person. So if you spend 2 weeks in Colombia, you'll meet absolutely everyone you need to meet.
Perfect. Carlos, in that question, I'd like to know, besides Ruta N in Medellin, what are the other connectors that you think an international startup should know in the city?
Okay. The first thing is that sometimes I feel that Canadian companies only see Colombia as a market, and I think it's part of the process. And when you see Colombia beyond like the market of Colombia, and you do a really good due diligence process, you will realize all the opportunities that Colombia is offering from different cities. And to serve Latin American countries and also Pacific Alliance countries. Um, so I think that the national government of Colombia, through ProColombia, is really important because they need to create 1,000 more exporters, and they have services to support that. And also the way to have access to customers, as Andres was saying, the PR is very important. Um, and we are coming soon in Ruta N. There's going to be something. I think it might work better than a PR. I hope is a service we're gonna hire with someone to guarantee at least some X amount of business meetings per week.
Thank you, Carlos. Now, Jessica, do you have something to add to those responses?
I think the guys already said everything about that, but yeah, if someone comes from any other country and come here to Colombia, I will say, come to us, come to our house. We have a vast team that can point you in the right direction. Rutain is another great place to start here in Medellin, and basically that, because I'm not trying to say that we are the only ones here, but we like to point towards like the right persons or people, like groups that you need to talk to. Like if you are a startup trying to look for developers, I will gladly help you look for them, or even sit with you and tell you what groups you need to go, or if you just need a hint on where to start in terms of sales. I will also help you. So yeah, just come to us. We will entertain and we will help you. We got this.
Thank you, Jessica. So our next question is regarding Colombia in compared with the region. And I know, most of you have traveled to the region or to other countries. How do you see the strengths of Colombia regarding, the other countries of the region? What is the most positive side of the country? And now I'm going to start with Jessica because you know many of those ecosystems around that are strong. So what is your perspective about that?
I think I won't give like a fair opinion since I'm so in love with Colombia right now. But one of the things that I used to mention about the ecosystem, I think we already addressed it in the first question. For me, in Colombia, people are just willing to help. So the communities are really strong. Any community that you go is like really strong, really close, and they just want to help you. The thing is that the government of Colombia is giving a lot of grants and a lot of education for entrepreneurs and for startups that wants to come to Colombia and build products here. So I think that's a great thing about what this country has. Another thing is that here, I don't know if it is because of the country or because of, I don't know, Medellin is great, but like all the players, like the main players, you can find them like here. And also a lot of people with a vast of experience in the U.S. markets come here just to live, and that's a great asset that Colombia has. I think that Andres will agree with me in a couple of those, but I know that he has more to add in that term.
Sounds good. So let's continue with Andres.
Yeah, so I've actually also have portfolio companies in Mexico and Chile and Argentina, and my last company, I built it out of Mexico. And I think each country has its own strength and its own weakness. And I'll just compare each country to each other. So the benefit of Chile, for example, is that Corfo and what they've done with Startup Chile is very organized. Their budget is pretty large, and they're very founder-friendly. Their budget is something like $60 million a year. The challenges that Chile faces is the pool of engineering talent, and distance is just far from the most lucrative markets. Mexico, their budget is something like $500 million put towards startups and entrepreneurship. They're very close to the US market, very close culturally, very close commercially. So they have that big benefit going for them. The only downside, I guess, is that in terms of engineering talent, the best engineers from Mexico are already in Silicon Valley because they have this benefit of the NAFTA agreement where they're not capped with H-1B visas that every other country has to deal with for engineering or science or technology professionals. So it's a little bit more challenging to compete for the best engineering talent. But it's still better than staying in the U.S. Where there's really very little option, and rent and taxes are very, very high. The benefit of Argentina is that they have the most experience in entrepreneurship and building technologies at scale. The downside that they had was operating in Argentina was very, very difficult. That has changed with the new president, with just changing the currency exchange controls that the government had and opening it up to the market. That has helped a lot. The one thing that is still a challenge, though, is that in terms of entrepreneurship, the most of the efforts in Argentina are targeting the Brazilian market because that's very close to them, and it's still very far from the world's most lucrative market, which is the US. So distance, again, is an issue. Here's where the benefit of Colombia comes, where it's like Goldilocks, neither too big nor too small, not too hard nor too soft. It's right in the middle, both geographically, in terms of going to the most lucrative market in New York. It's closer from Colombia to New York than Silicon Valley, New York. If you go somewhere really close, like Miami, that's like 3 hours away or 4 hours away. If you go to New York, it's 5 hours away. Mexico is also very close. That helps. But again, the most important thing that all the countries in Latin America can add to the world economy is engineering talent, and that is something that Colombia has. It doesn't have the same volume of engineers that Mexico does. It doesn't have the same experience as Argentina. But the ease of doing business, the proximity, and the fact that you can compete paying very well, double market rate, triple market rate, but that also guarantees that you get better engineers in a shorter amount of time of recruiting, and they stay with you longer, regardless of price, because I do want to make that a clear point. It shouldn't be a decision to recruit in Colombia engineering talent just because it's cheap. It's a source of cheap talent. You can always go to countries that are cheaper. It's actually a sense of quality, and something that we recommend our founders.
Okay, I think, Andres, we are missing you a little bit. Probably we can work without the video. That may be better because it's going.
On top of that, I would like to add something, which is that the cost of living in Colombia is like really cheap in comparison to all the other countries in Latin America. So it means that if you're a startup that already got investment in the U.S. or any other country, and you come here, your money will in Spanish is rendirte más, which is like it will give you a long runway here in Colombia, not only to hire but also to live. And here you can maintain like a certain lifestyle that you wouldn't have in other countries with that same money that you spend each month. So that's also a good thing about the coming here to Colombia with a startup.
Thank you, Jessica, and that's good. And I especially like what Andres said about the other countries, because this is very important for the international startups that are looking at Latin America. Is that each country in Latin America has something different to add, to the ecosystem. So it will depend really about the profile of the company and your goals, where you would like to expand, to actually select the startup ecosystem in Latin America that you like to be. So in compare with other countries, Colombia has a really good positive sides, but also has some weakness. But in the positive side, we can say that it's very central, has a good market size, and is very collaborative in terms of the ecosystem in general. So let's move to the next question, and this question is going to be for Carlos and Ruta N. And for that question, it's about mentoring in Colombia. How is the community of mentors in Colombia? Do international startups find mentors in Colombia?
So the specific answer is yes. It's important to say that Ruta N has around more than 100 mentors in our bank of mentors, and they go along with entrepreneurs in the startup since they are a concept of business until they got successfully into international markets sustainably in time. So and that's in our specific case. And also take into account that Antioquia is like the second largest region of Colombia, and is the most all the big companies and all these leading guys from different industries are becoming mentors also. So we have 5 of the 15 most important companies of Colombia are located here, and they're moving internationally really aggressively.
Sounds good. Andres, did you have something to add to that?
Yeah, so I think if you're looking to enter the Latin American market, I would still suggest that somebody enters Mexico before entering Colombia. But after you've done that and you want to enter Colombia, sure, there's enough mentors and people that can help you and that are willing and excited to help you enter the local market after you already own the US, Europe, Asia, Mexico, then you can enter. In terms of looking for mentors in Colombia that can help you conquer the US market or the European market, I would say don't bother. That's not the reason why you should be here. I think if you're going to really extract the most value is not because of our market, really. And in fact, our market, especially now, is pretty bad. Our purchasing power against the dollar has has devalued a ton. So it's not that of a lucrative market, but it's a great talent market. So yeah, those were my 2 cents.
Okay, sounds good. Jessica, do you have something to add on that?
Nope. I think that the
No?
guys already covered everything.
Okay, so let's continue with the next question, and that's for Jessica actually. What's the most common misconception about the ecosystem in Colombia? What do you feel when you are traveling and somebody is talking with you about the startup ecosystem? What is the most common thing that you said, no, that's not happening here?
I think that we don't actually have that a lot, but again, since the story of Colombia, the first thing people say is that why do you want to come here if it is so dangerous? And it's actually not. The risk is that you want to stay. I think they had that campaign here a couple of years ago. So I believe that that's like the only thing that I can say about that. After that is that it's kind of related to what Andres said. Like, yes, Mexico has like a stronger ecosystem in terms of they have more years doing this. But for me, the good thing about the ecosystem in Colombia is like it's very constant. Like they are trying to grow and they just try to learn a lot and do things the right way. So I don't think there are any other misconception than the fact that you might get robbed or kidnapped. Which no, guys, you're not gonna get kidnapped in Colombia. Trust me. I've been here for 2 years and they haven't tried to kidnap me.
And actually, I just want to add, for most people maybe don't know, Jessica is not from Colombia. She's from the Dominican Republic. She's lived in Spain. She has lived in Mexico, and she's worked both in New York and San Francisco helping startups.
And I'm
so that is completely unbiased. Right. Now, I'm biased and I'm Colombian, and I would say I grew up in the U.S. Most of my life, I think, or at least half of my life. And in terms of the reaction that I get when I talk to the investors and other entrepreneurs in the U.S., not in Latin America, but in the U.S., it's their first reaction is, wait, there's engineering in Colombia? I'm like, yes, we also have internet and technology, and we don't live in the jungle. So it's a surprise to them that the talent is here, the technologies that have been built here, and I start citing examples, and a lot of people didn't know that these companies are in Colombia. They don't make it known. Sadly, I would like it for companies to promote it more, that they're based out of Colombia, but I understand the stigma. And in terms of, oh, is it dangerous? I think if you read the news of the U.S., I feel like the U.S. is more dangerous than Colombia right now. So anywhere in the world, there's places that are not safe and places that are safe. I think in Colombia and in Mexico and in Chile and Argentina, you know where the safe places are. In the U.S., you might think you're in a safe place, whether it be a mall or a movie theater or your college or your church, and it might not be safe at all because then there's crazy people shooting people up. So it's relative, and we haven't had any problems with the founders that have come from abroad to do their companies in Colombia yet.
Thank you so much for that, Andres. And Carlos, you had the opportunity to visit here, Canada. So what was your impression about the misconception of the ecosystem when you were visiting the companies here in Canada?
Okay, in Toronto, yeah. Specifically, the first misconception of Colombia, I feel that they don't even know where is that located. But let's say, in accordance to what Andres was saying and Jessica, there's a stigma of violent country, and that has changed a lot. What people doesn't know about Colombia is that we are the most stable democracy since 1950s, and our economy is doing really, really well. And also, if you compare the homicide rates of Colombia's main cities, specifically of Medellin, and you compare that with cities as Andres was saying, in the U.S., we are safer. So, seriously, we have to overcome to that. And I feel that Toronto is a great place for startups, obviously, but they need to consider more seriously Colombia, definitely, because we are transforming.
Thank you, Carlos. Now the next question is for Andres, and that's many startups, international startups, are of course going internationally to get customers and to get users. How is the best way for an international startup to actually connect in Colombia with users and customers?
So the way that I've grown all of my companies to 35, 55 millions of users a month has always been through public relations. That has worked for me in the US and in Latin America. The most efficient way to reach your customers is through public relations, whether that be B2B or B2 consumer. Doing public relations makes it so that you have a lot of inbound inquiries and a lot of people coming to you as opposed to only the other way around. And of course, nothing beats, especially if you're in B2B, having a solid pipeline of prospects. They turn into leads, they turn into pitches, proposals, and closings. So there is no magic, there's no hack. It's just a lot of hard work.
Okay, sounds good. Carlos, do you have something to say about that? What is the best way for international startups to connect with users or clients in Colombia?
Yeah, I agree, Andres. I believe that there's a lot of hard work. Our job is to create the conditions for that play and for that to take place. And just two things to add. The first one is in terms of customers. There's a lot of hard work, and there's something very unique about Medellin is that we're moving forward with the main cities internationally, signing a cross-landing agreement, some soft cross-landing agreement. It's like you can stay on Mars because you're a startup from Medellin at a better conditions, and companies from Toronto that were incubated in Mars can be here at better conditions than usual. So that is useful to validate and to meet customers as well.
Sounds good. Jessica, did you have something to add to that?
Of course. So guys, the first thing you need to do is send your press release to pulsosocial.com, which is the media outlet that I manage. Because one of the things that is good about Pulso is that it's like it's the base for like all the startups that want to be in Latin America. Like we just not only it helps you to showcase your startup, but also to connect with other startups, mentors, and entrepreneurs that like you are trying to make it in this ecosystem. So remember that. Send it to me.
Sounds good. I will. At least those I know that I will send it to all of you guys. So for the next question, how are the companies that you represent helping right now international startups? What are the kind of services or the collaboration that you do for international startups? And let's start with Pulso Social, with Jessica.
Great, thank you. So, like I said before, what we do is showcase the startups that are entering the market. That way, they can have like a point, like a start point in terms of showing the showcasing their startup. Other thing that we do in Pulso Social is also helping startups through our kernel platform in recruiting in Latin America, not only in Colombia, but it's all Latin America. Why we do this? Because it is really hard for the startup to come here out of nowhere and finding good development talent. Like it is really hard. So what we do is that we make the connections. We start we get you with meetings and with everything you need to hire. Well, not only developers but also country managers. So in case that you need someone to take care of your office here in Colombia, it is like a good thing for to come to us. That way we help you.
Thank you, Jessica. Now, Carlos from Ruta N. How is Ruta N helping international startups to locate in Colombia?
Okay, basically our value proposal is that we help startups grow, and we do that from like 4 points of view. The first one is we help you create new products and services, and for that we support that with mentors and with economic resources from the government of Medellin. Part of those resources have to be turned back to Ruta N, and part of the resources don't have to be turned back to Ruta N. So And if you're located in the technology district of Medellin, you have like 5 extra points. So the part that you don't have to turn back to the internet becomes automatically bigger. Also, we help you cut the gaps in talents, and we help you attract, recruit, and select the talent. Our level of service there is like 8 days, depending on the profile of the talent you're looking for. That's perfectly in place. And when we feel that there's a lack of um, a skill, a specific technical skill in our ecosystem, and that's a feeling that a lot of companies has. We invest money to train in short-term courses the people and to make that talent available to the ecosystem. Also, we have an easy landing strategy. It means that it's the easiest way to start in Colombia. I can tell you that for sure, because you don't even have to be legally created in Colombia to be here, and you only pay one fee and everything is included. And there's no capex for startups that want to be here part of our technology district. And also, we help you access international markets with our uh, market access and network, and with peers like ProColombia. That's basically what we do.
Thank you, Carlos. And now, Andres, through Social Latam, how you're helping international startups that are arriving in Colombia?
So if the companies are coming in Colombia for the market, the public relations firm takes care of that. Also, Kernel helps recruit country managers. If it's a startup that is targeting the US market or like a global market with engineering talent in Latin America, then we invest capital with our venture arm. We also provide the service of public relations included with our investment. We include the services of Kernel and recruiting as part of our investment. We provide our in-house engineering team to help you with your technical challenges, and the founder is encouraged to steal from us their engineers. That's the idea, that you poach from us. And then finally, we help founders do their finance or fundraising so that they can raise more capital. And something that is available to not just our founders, but to really anybody, is the legal and kind of facilities management type of operations that are normally a headache to take care of in Colombia: opening up a bank account, renting an office, doing all the paperwork. Atom House, which is our co-working space, is offering those services. Even if you choose an office space that is not Atom House, you can just pick, I want that office in that building, and we'll take care of all the paperwork, getting the insurance, getting the bank accounts, everything on your behalf.
Sounds good. Now the last question is really about what is your best advice for those startups that are, traveling right now to Colombia International Startups. We are going to start with Jessica. What is your best advice for them when they are thinking and expand in Colombia?
Okay, I would recommend to see Colombia as like to put in a way your headquarters here in this country, because the cost of living is gonna be lower and your team probably will be better and your money will last longer here. That's the one. And the other thing is just to take advantage of the great ecosystem that we have. It is actually a mentor full of mentors, full of people willing to help, and just come here, enjoy, and if you need any help, just let us know. There are a lot of people willing to help you here.
Seems like I'm upside down for some reason. Now, could you please, Andres, go ahead and tell us your best advice?
My best advice is for those companies that are entering Colombia for talent is to make your first hire the most senior hire possible. So a very, very senior person that is at your level that can help you manage a team here. So you don't have to be micromanaging. So and don't try to skimp on money on that. Just pay as much as you can and hire the best person possible. For companies entering the Colombian market, I will just make sure that they've already entered Mexico, Europe, Asia, and the US before they enter Colombia. And once they do, then my recommendation is the press is your ally, whether it's B2B or B2 consumer, because that will give you the credibility that normally takes decades to build in Colombia or in Latin America in general. And if you come as an outsider, you have the credibility coming from the press. It opens many, many doors.
Sounds good. Now, Andre, Carlos, could you please give us your best advice for international startups going to Colombia?
I will say that, like, in accordance with Andres, it's really important to take a look at Colombia deeply. I mean, it's not a matter of only a market. There's a lot of benefits here, talent and access to markets. I will say that they should take advantage of the tools that are already in place. So please use us, use Rutaene has a platform, use Atom has a platform, use Pulso Social. We we are keen to help the startups to grow, but my main advice will be take a look at Colombia deeply because you should be setting up a productive operation in Colombia, not only a sales representative.
Sounds good. Now, we are going to go for questions. Right now, we have already 3 questions, and I think that those are enough for now. So the first question comes from Edmonton, and this is a question about developers and what is the average salary in Colombia to hire developers. Who can answer that question?
So I'll do that very, very, very quickly. You shouldn't want to hire average people, so you shouldn't look for average salaries. The idea is to get very, very senior people. And just to give you an idea, you can the top 10 engineers in the country, not 10%, the top 10 engineers in the country are making $100,000 a year. The top 10 engineers in the US are making $400,000 a year. Just to give you a point of comparison. If you go for average, then you're going to get average, and that's around $24,000 a year. But don't go for average.
Okay, sounds good. Somebody wants to add something to that question?
Okay. Yeah. I would like to add something. It's like Andres is right. It's really at this point in time, it's really competitive. It's really competitive if you compare the cost of an engineer with U.S. prices. But to avoid the attrition levels, you should pay as much as you can.
Sounds good.
Now, I think that I will add that no matter, I think that you can compare the salaries of a developer in Colombia with any other country, and Colombia is always going to be, in a way, cheaper for average. But like Andres said, the thing is that the first thing you need to do when you enter Colombia is to hire a really good, talented person that is also a senior developer, so he can take care of all your team. Like if you have that person and you pay him what he's worth, then you want. After that, you can hire the senior, the junior levels, and that'll be fine. Those are average. But the first one has to be really experienced, and has to be, and in that one, you're gonna have to pay what they are worth in the market. But of course, it will be always cheap compared to Silicon Valley, New York, or even Mexico.
Sounds good. Andres, do you want to add something? Or no, you are okay. Okay. So our next question is about how is the cost of life in Colombia? So do you guys would like to say something about the cost of life? The person is asking us about renting and food. How much will spend somebody in Colombia for that part?
I will say that if you want to live here, I've lived in Mexico and I've been traveling in the past few years in a lot of countries. For me, Colombia is the cheapest one in terms of cost of living, because if getting a normal house in a good neighborhood, a normal apartment, in a good neighborhood, plus with the services and the food, it will cost you a quarter of what you're paying in New York, for example. Like if you come here with $1,000, then you will have like a really good living for 1 month. At least in Medellin. Bogota is a little bit different because here in Colombia, prices vary in each city. But I will say that it's really cheap. Like you can get a nice two bedroom apartment in a nice zone for like $300 $400, and if you want to add a doorman plus a pool, then you will have to pay, oh my God, $500. Try to get that in the U.S. It's almost impossible. And on top of that, you get like food. I don't know, a plato del día, which is like a daily rice and beans and thing that you can eat at 12 in the afternoon. Then it will cost you like $2. Imagine that like for a whole month. And also markets here, like Colombia is so big and it's so rich that it has a lot of like local production. So yeah, it is cheap as you can get.
Okay.
To give you an idea, my apartment, two-bedroom apartment in New York is $3,500 a month. My two-bedroom apartment in Medellin is $300 a month.
That's a good idea. In terms of numbers.
Yeah, and I would like to add something else. Obviously, comparisons are like sometimes you don't have to do it, but take into account that Medellin is one of those cities that say the inflation rate of Colombia helps that inflation rate to go down. So we are around 21% or 28% cheaper than the capital city of Colombia, Bogota. And also, it's not only a matter of cost; it's also a matter of quality of living. So you will find also here that here.
That's awesome. And now the last question is, this actually comes from a startup in Colombia. He's asking if you will advise any startup succeeding in Colombia to move to Silicon Valley.
I think to succeed, you don't need to move to Silicon Valley. You need to move to wherever your customers are. If your customers are in Silicon Valley, then okay, go there. But if you're going to Silicon Valley because you want investors, then you're probably going to show up with no customers. And so what if you live where the investors live? You need to first have customers, and then the investors will come to you.
Sounds
Another
good.
thing is that it doesn't matter, like, yeah, if your market and your customers are in Silicon Valley, move to Silicon Valley, but leave your operations team here in Colombia. Do not take your developers and the people that can stay here. Do not take them there. Like, just take sales and maybe marketing to Silicon Valley and, of course, the founder. But leave your operations team here, because if you take everyone to Silicon Valley, which is one of the most expensive cities to like the regions to live in, then you are just gonna be there for a week, and then you're gonna have to come back and build another startup because you're gonna go broke.
Okay, sounds good. And
So
then, Carlos.
something to add. I agree, Andres. If it does make sense to the company's strategy, my specific answer for Diana is yes, and please call me, because we have been, as I told you before, we have been signing cross-landing agreements, and that's one of the purposes of those kind of agreements.
Sounds good. Thank you, Carlos. Now, well, we finished with those questions. We would like to know if the audience that is watching right now this webinar, or the others that probably are going to have questions, how they can contact you guys. So let's start with Andres.
My email is public. You can find it both on my Twitter, on LinkedIn, and on the website. It's ab@socialatomgroup.com, or you can just Google my name. My email is public.
Thank you. Jessica.
Same here. You can go to pulsosocial.com, and in the contact you can find my email and the email of the editor of Pulso Social to send them all your press release. Also, my Twitter is @JSSMercedes, and you can find me on LinkedIn and all those social media that you use to contact.
Sounds good. Carlos.
Okay, I've realized that I hate emails, so my cell phone number is +57 is the country code, and the number is 300-209-0407.
Okay, pass it to the people here through email. It's a WhatsApp,
please
basically.
don't
Yeah.
no.
Yeah, sounds good. Oh, thank you so much to our guest to be today talking about the startup ecosystem in Colombia. We hope that you all guys have good insights about the ecosystem. If you have more questions, probably later, then contact us through contact latamstartup at latamstartup.biz and through the hashtag latamstartup in Twitter. You can also chat with us about that. And remember, we have a conference in October in Mexico City, Latam Startup Conference. So please be with us there. So thank you so much and see you in the next webinar.